Howdy yo! The most sacred, elaborate, and often the most beautiful and mysterious architecture from the old world will leave us questioning the very nature of the building itself. From the infrastructure to the immense walls, the often symmetrical interior designs, with befitting geometrical alignments abound, we see the most conspicuous of architecture which seems to confound even the generous historical narratives. In today's video, we will be looking at Reims, or Reims, Cathedral, in Reims, or Reims, France.
Reims. 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 Reims.
So I will be using Reims in this video. Now, the focus of this video will be a multitude of images taken before the Reims Cathedral was destroyed during World War I, after which time it was rebuilt largely using funds provided directly by the Rockefeller Foundation. As we browse the earliest photographs of Reims Cathedral, we will also briefly go over the narrative of this particular piece of Roman Catholic history. So let's get right into it. The city of Reims began recorded history under control of the Gauls, as recorded by Julius Caesar. Their large settlement, with modern-day Reims at its center, was called Duro Catorum. Eventually, after the Gallic Wars and into the 3rd century AD, this area became the capital of the Roman province of Second Belgium. Here, the first Christian church was founded by Saint Sixtus between 250 and 300 AD, marking the first church in the area that would become Reims. The church at Reims, upon which the current Reims Cathedral we're looking at today stands, was then founded by Saint Nicasius in the early 400s. He chose this new location as it was the ruins of a massive Gallo-Roman bath built by Constantine. The church was built upon the converted ruins. However, Saint Nicasius is possibly more well remembered for how he achieved his sainthood. In one tale, it's written Nicasius predicted the invasion of the Vandals into France, only to subsequently recommend against the violence. Nicasius met the Vandals, who invaded in 407, at his church altar, where he waited with his kin. As the story goes, Nicasius accepted his fate, and when he lost his head, he continued to pray. The other tale of Nicasius states that instead of the Vandals, Nicasius predicted an invasion by the Huns shortly before they arrived to France in 451. In this version of the tale, before meeting his fate at the hands of the Huns, Nicasius first contracted smallpox, of which he survived. Thus, Saint Nicasius is the patron saint of smallpox survivors. Little is written directly about his establishment of the infrastructure of the church at Reims over the Roman bath. However, we are told the church was dedicated to the Virgin Mary, and the plan for the church was a circle within a square. Clovis, the first king of the Franks who united all the Frankish tribes under one ruler, regarded by many historians as the first king of what would become France, was baptized at Reims Church on Christmas Day, according to tradition. This occurred in the late 5th century or the very beginning of the 6th century, depending on what source you are reading. The adoption by Clovis of Catholicism at Reims led directly to the unification of France, the Low Countries, and Germany. The unity flourishing, 3 centuries later, the Bishop of Rome and Charlemagne formed a direct alliance, leading to Otto the Great and the birth of the Holy Roman Empire in the 10th century. All this history seems to tie back directly to the location of the cathedral at Reims. Reims was the traditional location for the royal coronations for centuries. However, the history gets even stranger. Without revealing the details outside the cathedral, we're told in 816, Louis the Pious was crowned king at Reims Church. The ensuing celebrations revealed how inadequate the early church really was, and thus a new church was ordered to be built in Reims. This new church would be built from the recently torn down old city walls and ramparts. The narrative continues by telling us the new design still incorporated the circle in a square, with the outside of the cathedral measuring roughly 282 feet on all sides. This cathedral was completed in 862. By the 10th century, the new cathedral, built over the old church, built over the Roman bath, was already deteriorating again. This deterioration revealed an ancient crypt, seemingly one that was built either into the original Roman bath or possibly even before it. The current Reims Cathedral altar sits directly over this ancient crypt. In 976, Archbishop Aldebaro renovated the site once more, this time substantially enlarging the structure, removing the original Romanesque arcades and adding an abundance of gold, as well as numerous thunderous bells. In 1027, Reims was officially recognized as the site of the coronation of the French monarch. Of all of France's kings, all but 7 of them would be crowned at Reims. In the year 1051, Henry I married Anna of Kiev at Reims Cathedral. Then, by the 12th century, Archbishop Samson demanded the cathedral be enlarged once again. He preserved the existing nave and transept, but rebuilt and enlarged the 2 ends of the cathedral. He demolished the west front end and adjoining tower in order to build 2 matching flanking towers. On the east end, he created a larger choir and a ring of radiating chapels. However, nothing in this narrative of Reims Cathedral seems to last for more than a century, at least according to this official history. On May the 6th of 1210, the early Gothic cathedral, renovated on orders by Samson, was burnt to the ground. The cause of this fire was said to be an accident, officially listed as carelessness. 1 year later to the day, on May the 6th, 1211, the first stone of the modern cathedral that we're looking at today was laid. We're told the Reims Cathedral was then rebuilt at a rapid speed, considered to be one of the fastest at that point in history. It's written this occurred due to Reims Cathedral being one of the first buildings to use stones and other materials of a standardized size, so each stone did not have to be cut to measure. Essentially, Reims Cathedral was a manufactured stone superstructure. We're told by July of 1221, roughly 10 years later, the cathedral was basically fully functional. As we mentioned, the narrative makes note of the quick speed of this construction. And yet we're told the construction on the uninhabitable parts of the cathedral continued for a further 100 years or more. Making this more convoluted is the fact that Reims Cathedral had 4 or more unique architects who built the cathedral but who did not work with each other on the massive construction. This goes hand in hand with the fact that after the cathedral was functionally but not fully completed, the merchants and the bankers of the city had a massive disagreement with the clergy on the future of the cathedral, said to lead to massive delays in the funding. We're told Reims Cathedral was not considered officially completed by the church until the year 1505, when the upper galleries were completed. A lot of the history regarding the construction of the cathedral at Reims is unclear at best, with different sources giving vastly different dates for the completion of certain aspects of this superstructure. Beyond that, we have the cornucopia of names and architects that are attributed to this process of construction, all the while being told the construction was compartmentalized and it was functional after 10 years, but not considered complete for nearly 300 years. We're told the Reims Cathedral was once topped by a massive wooden spire covered in lead, which atop the cathedral reached to nearly 500 feet tall. However, this spire was destroyed in 1481 when it caught fire. Joan of Arc is immortalized outside the Reims Cathedral for the work that she did during the 100 Years' War. We're told besides these monuments, at the bottom level, or infrastructure of the Reims Cathedral was once an elaborate labyrinth, with the names of the architects hidden within the labyrinth, as a Masonic reference to the Cretan labyrinth of Minos. The towers at the Reims Cathedral were said to once be designed to reach 390 feet tall, however today they measure 266 feet. Also, as of today, the cathedral maintains only 2 of the massive bells which once rung out throughout the streets of Reims. This includes the over 10-ton bell known as Charlotte. In the 18th century, most of the interior of the Reims Cathedral was renovated, including the altar, which, as a reminder, for nearly 15 centuries has covered an ancient Roman bath and crypt. During the French Revolution in 1793, Reims Cathedral was overtaken and converted into a temple of reason, when again, the interior of the cathedral was mostly destroyed. The gold which lined the cathedral was stolen and melted down, as were the bells. Parts of the French royal crown jewels were also damaged or stolen. However, the bones or the core of the cathedral remained mostly intact. In the late 19th century, the Reims Cathedral was modified and renovated further. It seems every 30 to 40 years, up until World War I, Reims Cathedral was being renovated, with certain aspects being changed, hidden, or removed. With the outbreak of World War I, Reims Cathedral was severely damaged, nearly destroyed entirely. However, the history about what occurred is less decisive. We're told first, the 12th Saxon Corps arrived to Reims, followed by, on the very same day, the Imperial German Army, who immediately began shelling Reims, with the Saxon Corps still inside. As history tells us, these two groups were on the same side, yet the Saxon Corps had to alert the Germans that they had already occupied Reims, and they asked them to cease shelling at this time. We're told the German cannons were over 4 miles away from Reims. On September the 11th and 12th, the Germans converted Reims into a makeshift hospital, lining the Cathedral of Reims with straw and wooden beds. French soldiers then quickly retook the city of Reims, causing the Germans to leave behind their wounded in the cathedral. The next and last part of this discussion that I want to get into, which may be the most confusing, states that on September the 18th, prolonged bombardment aimed at Reims Cathedral began, that is, until the straw and the wood inside the Reims Cathedral burst into flames. This destroyed the cathedral nearly entirely. We're told the remaining bells melted, the remaining gold melted, the lead which lined the roof and the walls melted, and from first-hand accounts we're told this mixture of materials then poured through the eyes and the mouths of hundreds of gargoyles, making it appear as if the gargoyles themselves were crying molten tears. The Germans blamed the French, who forced the injured Germans to stay in the cathedral during the shelling. The French blamed the Germans for purposefully attacking an ancient place of worship. The shelling of Reims continued on and off through early 1919. In that same year, vast funds, nearly the entire bill to rebuild Reims Cathedral and the surrounding city, were provided by one company, one foundation. This was the Rockefeller Foundation. The rebuild used modern techniques like prefabricated concrete and electricity to make the rebuild faster. While rebuilding the Reims Cathedral, the Rockefeller Foundation is said to have found and preserved ancient artifacts from the original Greco-Roman church and bath, built some 1,500 years earlier or more. The Reims Cathedral was then reopened after nearly 20 years of Rockefeller excavation in the year 1938. From here, the history is yours to decipher, but please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing this video to help me reach my goal of 100,000 subscribers. And join me here for the next video discussing more old world shenanigans. Thank you. Leave your comments down below. Cheers, y'all.